Hey, welcome to the Closing Time Podcast. My name is David Mansour, and I'm a mortgage loan officer here in Peachtree City, Georgia. And the goal of my podcast is simply to give you some insight and maybe look behind the curtains in the lives of some of the people that you do business with and see who they are outside of their careers. I hope you enjoy. Hello, and thank you for joining. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different. I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know if it'll be one-off or maybe we'll continue this topic. I just kind of wanted to talk about it and share just in case anybody else was on the same journey. So we're talking about faith and God and belief in religion. So this is where I'm not a pastor. I'll tell you a little bit about my history. I'm sure several of you laughed when I said that. But for anybody new listening, I guess, that doesn't know me, knows that I'm far from any type of religious figure, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So my background, we grew up in church. I remember the church picked us up on a bus through our apartment complex, and the guy had a squeaky chicken. That's my first memory. I don't remember church. I just remember getting on that bus, and the guy had a chicken. Then probably didn't go to church for a while, and then probably 5th, 6th grade, starting to go to church all through middle school a lot. Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday. And loved it. Those are our good friends and family and Zoe and Life Church. That was great. A great time in life. And then high school I don't know that I went to church. I don't remember. I'm sure we went some. And then college, I'd pop into church. I still had that whole, that habit and that Catholic guilt, if you will, even though we're not Catholic, of going. So I'd pop in, 2 or 3 times a year, I guess. And I'd probably go with my mom when we were home. And then I kind of popped back in a couple times as I got into a young adult. And then when I got married, I tried to join the church again. And just kind of, not that there was any reason why I did or didn't, just it felt good. But then, if there was something better to do, or if I went out on a Saturday night, I surely wasn't getting up on a Sunday. I don't even remember really thinking about it much in my 20s. One thing I know that happened that I think might have kind of hesitate and, I wonder the psychology behind it is, we used to go to revivals, tent revivals and all this stuff, people passing out in the spirits and praying in tongues and all this stuff. And twice, and it probably just, I don't know where you believe or what I believe, but I just remember twice, strangers, complete strangers, they'd stop when I'd come walk up. You'd walk up and they'd lay hands on you and you fall out in the spirit or whatever the situation might be. They're like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a preacher one day. This kid's going to be something. I don't know why they said it. I didn't do anything. I wasn't like outgoing. I don't know if it's just because I was there, but I feel like my brothers were there too. Well, that was a fear because once I got to high school, I was afraid of religion because I realized that I felt like it made me miss a few parties. And I was a little judgmental in my earlier years. And I felt like maybe I didn't have a few friendships or didn't get a few invites because of where I stood. So I think that's why I ran a little bit. And not sure what part that played in coming back. But anyway, then we moved forward. Once I had kids, well, really, I just found Andy Stanley and just loved the way he preached. I love that, to me, someone that was not even religious at all. I think everything that he kind of shared and talked about had practical application about being a good person, about, Jesus's love and the New Testament. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. My belief on New versus Old Testament. So that'll be an interesting conversation. I would love, I'd love if anybody wants to carry on this conversation, wants to join me, wants to share where they are. But so let's jump back in. So then started going with the kids and then I went through the divorce, and then it was just kind of really wanted to have something steady there for them. The Upstreet at Southside Church was just incredible. I just liked going and I don't know, it felt like a little bit more support, and I wanted my kids just to have a base. And I've always wanted them to experience different religions. So I think when they were younger, took them maybe to a Catholic church, and honestly, my intentions were probably good, but didn't go to many. I used to love going to black churches, African American churches, just because the more they see, the more they understand, and the less judgment you have, the more you're around different things. So then just got involved, and then started like teaching it up street. Still not really changing anything outside of church. Still enjoy my cold beers. Still enjoy a lot of things. Very foul language, and just living how I wanted to live. I mean, no different than most of us, I guess. And then, really, in the last couple of years, it's gotten to where I'm like, man, I got to figure this out. Like, what do I really believe? Like, I don't want to just go for the sake of going. My kids are getting older. Max loves church. Aiden goes to a Catholic church with his girlfriend occasionally. But Max absolutely loves the middle school program, the camps and all that. It's incredible. And then I've always had a heart for service and serving people outside of the church. I mean, just in general, believe it or not, believe in God or not, I think we need more people that just genuinely want to serve people. And I think that's where my heart is. So where are we? So then I guess I love the idea of mission trips. I actually considered the Peace Corps for a while. I might have even sent in an application. I don't think I fully completed it. I think I might have done like the mail in, but never did the video or something. I don't know. You know, it was another one of those things where I was just afraid to actually leave. But I just love the idea of going to a foreign country and serving or helping or whatever. I don't know why. Can't tell you why I wanted to do it. But finally, I went with Southside. Oh, I'll go back a little bit. I know at when I was part of Andy Stanley's church in Atlanta when we were living in the Highlands, I applied for a couple of mission trips then. That was a long time ago. That's 20 years ago. Never heard a word back. That was really disappointing. I figured because I wasn't really involved in the church. Because, it asked questions about your motivation. And I'm like, I just really want to see what it's all about. And so I didn't have these deep philosophical, I love God answers. I don't even know if they received the applications. I know I did them correct, so let's stop there. I know I did them correct. I just don't. I guess I was really disappointed in their lack of reply or outreach. Like I always felt like, if somebody reaches out, they should have said, hey, we don't know that you're ready yet, but let's get you involved here or something. There was many opportunities. This was on 2 different occasions. I think both of them were Lebanon, just because I wanted to go to the motherland. Anyway, so I end up, where are we at? We're in 2026. So this would have actually been 24, but not a full 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, November, I signed up to go to
If you find this video, please subscribe.
Lord, El Salvador. And didn't really know what to expect, was fearful, didn't know where, still, we'll get into the whole question of God and all that stuff, but just really wanted to go and serve. Wanted to see what it was all about. I wanted to really surround myself with people that did believe in God. So as I'm seeking answers and seeking a relationship with God and all that good stuff, I really wanted to just surround myself with people so that I could have that influence, so I could make my decision. And I went, and it was fantastic. It was hard physical labor. I can't say I had a God moment or like, it felt like service. It felt good to be over there and serve people. It actually raised questions. You got people over there living in poverty that are very faithful. And, it makes you question just not really understanding the world and what's our purpose and all that good stuff. So, but what we did do is like 10 great guys that we went with. Some of them were in college, most of us are adults. And we kind of went around and everybody told their story for like 20 minutes while we were on different rides, wherever we were driving to or from somewhere. And they ran around and talked about their purpose, like what they were there for. And they told their story about what was their moment and what happened and what brought them to God and what confirmed their belief and all these, I don't want to say deep, but, just a lot of them had moments where this is what happened. And some of them were where they hit bottom and they figured it out. And some were just, this is what it is. This is what I found. This is a couple of kids I was raised in church, and they were very passionate and just full on faith and belief. And they kept pushing me to do mine. I'm like, nah, I don't really have a story yet. I don't have a story. I haven't had that moment yet because I don't feel like I've really totally bought in. And I'm just being honest here. Like I feel like my faith has definitely grown since then. And we'll talk more about that. But at the time, I just didn't feel like I had that story. I didn't have that, moment where, I had toothpaste in my backpack and I didn't know why. And something was telling me to carry the toothpaste. And then I walk up and a guy's like, do you have any toothpaste? Just made that up, probably a bad example. But I just never had that moment, where God was obvious. I've always questioned, how do you know when God's talking to you versus it's your own head? And I might go around because I feel like just jumping into some of this stuff because these are some of the questions that I'm exploring now. And the point, I guess, of this conversation is what I want to share with people that I think I've learned. And this is my own beliefs. I don't care if you agree or disagree. This is where I am today. But what I did learn on that trip, I was telling them in that when I finally did go, I was like, I don't have a moment. I don't have a story yet. I don't have this time when I've just given myself over to God. I said, I'm here exploring it. And they were so great. And they were just like, that's fine. It's all about a walk and a journey. And I'm like, I'm not ready to give up beer. And, I cuss too much and I don't even know how to not cuss. And they were like, yeah, we cuss too. Yeah, I like beer too. And the gist of it was, and then God, I just had a year and a half later, just had another great conversation that faith in your walk is all about your journey or your walk of working towards having a better relationship with God. And one thing that I was always hung up on is that I felt like, because we have so many hypocrites in our lives. Definitely in the media, in politics, and everywhere right now. We've had preachers that have been horrible. And I've always, in my head, just like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite until I'm full on Christian boy, till I full on no longer cuss and no longer drink, until I full on. So I've always felt like it was an all or nothing. Like, well, once I commit to God, that means I'm getting rid of everything else. And I'm not trying to, you ain't got to preach to me. Believe me, I believe I know. I'm just saying, this is my journey. This is my path. But what I have always held in is not wanted to talk about it, not wanted to even tell anybody that I went to church. My mom is big time in the church. We don't necessarily agree. They're very old school, very judgmental. I love Southside's mantra of be known for what you are for and not what you're against. And I think that's a big part of religion that I've always just butted heads with. I'm so tired of churches and family members and people that want to tell you everything that they're against. And it's like, I really don't care. And I've had the conversation where it's like, if that is God, I don't want any part of it. That judgmental, that you're going to hell if you this and that. And I just don't believe in that. And I don't know if we'll get to what I believe because I'll share. I'd like to. We'll see. But there's a lot of hangups. I had some distant family that really, jump in the closet and pray, and anything was offensive, and it was all. And I'm like, I don't want no part of that. I don't want any part of having to seclude myself or withdraw from things because I was a Christian. I didn't want to, I can't go to a football game because they cuss and drink beer. Oh, I can't ever be in a bar again because I'm a Christian. I can't listen to that music because I'm a Christian. I understand that that is the goal. I understand that we are working towards, my goal in life would be, hell, I don't even know, to be honest. Can I say that I ever want to not drink beer? I ain't going to say that. I don't drink near as much as I used to. I don't think it's because of religion. I think it's more because of age. But my desire to, I ain't gonna say that because I like drinking to excess too. I like going to the lake and tying one on. I ain't gonna lie. I like gangster rap, but I listen to a significantly much more Christian praise and worship now. Maybe because the praise and worship music right now is pretty dope, pretty cool. I don't know. Anyway, back on track. So, I went on that mission trip. And, the biggest thing I got from it was that those gentlemen were they were cool with it. But then I felt guilty because, I came back fired up. Came back like everybody else, like, I just want to be a better person. I want to help more people. But, it wasn't 2 weeks later and I'm telling really dirty jokes and saying inappropriate things. And then I'm withdrawing again, going, okay, you've got to stop. You can't talk that way. You can't cuss like that if you're going to try to represent the church. And I guess that's where I felt like if I was saying I was a Christian and I go to Southside, that I would represent the church. And I don't represent the church at all, no church. What I am resolved myself to is that I'm just trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out what I believe, what I don't believe, what is true, what type of God is really, what it was created by man, what is an interpretation, what is real, all this stuff I'm going through. I'm just, there's a lot of weird things. And here's another thing. Let me add this. I've never read the Bible. Obviously, go to church and they read verses and stuff, but I've never actually read the Bible. I think, what was it, like 2 months ago, maybe it was January 1st, read Genesis for the first time. Bible app, I just hit play, it reads it to me. I was shocked. I didn't know all that stuff happened. I heard the stories, but I didn't know it all happened in that one book. Lord, it moved fast. People getting old, sad, 900 years old. I didn't know any of that. And I don't know if that helped or hurt, because now I'm like, come on now, 900? I don't know. But I'm going to pursue that more. I feel like I can't make a decision until I've read it and truly understand. Because I'm in a couple of men's groups just because I really enjoy these guys. I mean, they're good people and they're people that I want to be more like. So I go, I'm trying to learn, trying to figure all this out. But they talk more about all the references and how it all ties together. And I think that's the miracle that builds their faith, is all these references in the Old Testament that ties to the New, and all these different books and how they're written and when and the timing and all that. And that's what I need and I love is facts. Okay, tell me why I believe that it's fact. And I know it's faith. You kind of got to believe in what's not real, but I need a little bit of fact. So I guess that's kind of where I am now. Is I've joined this little leadership group I got invited to go to, where it's a year-long class. We meet once a month. We have homework, and we're learning things. And that was one of the conversations last night. Was one of the books, or I think there's some videos, books, podcasts, all kind of stuff that we have to do. But one of the guys said, a true atheist, he don't think about God. He don't care. He ain't bothered by it because he doesn't believe in it. Like, you ain't worried about Santa Claus, what he's doing. He said, so if you have questions, if you have, that is natural and good. And that means your faith is building. Because if you didn't believe in God, you wouldn't have all these questions. So that was great. A lot of things I've just kind of gotten reassured that that it is a walk, a journey. It's not about this moment. I feel like where I am now, and I don't know how long I'm going to or how loud I'm going to profess that I'm on this journey or that where I am, because I cannot stand the hypocrisy of the church. Like, not the church, to be honest. It's the people that preach it and use it and choose what they want. And, I don't want to be that person. I know we're all hypocrites, and that's a big part of the problem. But that is my struggle right now. Is I've always felt like I had to be all in. Like, if I'm going to profess that I'm a Christian out loud, if I'm going to volunteer at the church, if I'm going to go, that I had to be a representative of that at home. And I'm working towards being that better person and saying the better things. But I still say some things. I still use a few words that I'm really not ready to let go of. But I don't know. I don't know what that looks like a year from now, etc. So just some thoughts, and just kind of so I record them. Kind of, I've listened to different podcasts and different videos and different things, and don't at me with your whole picking what you want out of the Bible and blah blah blah. One thing I believe they call it the New Testament because it is the new covenant. It replaces the old covenant. So anything in the Old Testament, dead. I think it's a dead scroll. That's my opinion, an uneducated opinion, but that makes sense to me. Jesus came back, came with a new covenant. This is the new covenant, and it's all based on love, loving your neighbor, loving this, and still a lot of the same rules, obviously, same thoughts. But, ain't nobody stops and talks about why we ain't putting chickens over doors anymore, but you want to enforce everything else. And then I heard, and I hadn't done the research on this, I heard that the whole "a man should not lay with a man" was changed by the Catholic Church in like 1970, maybe. Like, it didn't even say that. The interpretation wasn't even that, but the Catholic Church changed it to that. I don't know if that's true. I need to do the research. Somebody help me out or help me interpret that. But that again puts more questions. Is this whole thing, where are the interpretations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I don't know. Heaven and hell. I'll share that with you. I've heard some different interpretations of heaven. I do believe in energy forces. I believe all these religions that are all around us, they're really similar. I believe, and I could misspoke because I'm not a very educated man. So all mine are opinions based on TikToks, whatever, sue me. I don't care. But the Muslim religion doesn't, the other religions just don't see God as a white dude sitting on a throne. Like, you know what I mean? But they believe that it's like an energy force. And that's, I kind of feel like, not that it didn't still, I think the only way for our minds to comprehend it is to feel like it's a human being. But I'm not saying it ain't, I'm just saying I don't know. I just think all the religions are a lot more similar than we think. I think people have kind of twisted them and add their own little things. So I think for my atheist friends out there or my doubters, I do think that man has twisted religion to make it fit or control people or whatever, because, I've thought those things as well. Part of me not wanting to surrender to God, that's just be all in, is I can't get rid of my critical thinking. I don't want to not be able to critically think about things. So I haven't figured out, how do I go all in with faith, but still hold on to my critical thinking, because that's important to me. I don't trust anybody, as far as in the world. And so I want my critical thinking skills. But also, one thing I go back to all the time, I don't know if it's intelligent or not, but, I've got a couple of atheist friends, and I'm like, you believe in science, you believe in aliens. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how can you believe in aliens but not believe that a God is possible? I'm not saying you believe in God, but you got to give me that. Like, you believe there's other planets, life way out there, because it just makes sense. But to me also, based on life, and it just makes sense that there is a God. What it looks like and what his rules are, I don't know yet, but I do believe that he exists. And I believe Jesus is real. And I believe he died. I believe he came back to life. I can't explain why I believe that. It just feels right to me. It just feels like there's too many things pointing to it. You know, the Bible lasting these long and just so many things. Yeah, I just believe that. So anyway, but I don't believe in hell. There you go. I said it. I don't believe hell exists. I believe hell is the absence of heaven. What do you think about that? I believe, or maybe that's what my thought is. I don't want to say. I think, that when you die, and I hadn't tied all, again, back to that, I'm an uneducated Bible person. I just kind of piece this stuff together, and hopefully as I read more and study more, maybe I'll put it all together. But I think kind of when you die, you're just hanging out. You're just lingering as an energy force, as a spirit in this world. And then when the rapture comes, then whatever heaven is, I remember the stories of how we go to heaven and then it's destroyed in 7 years of blah. I don't even know the details, but whatever that looks like, I think that's when the believers, then they go to heaven, and the people that are in hell are just kind of lost here. They're not, ain't nobody on fire anywhere. Can you imagine? I always go back to the little Chinese kid. I think my mom used to say, well, every person will have the opportunity to choose God. And if that's in this life, I don't think it's fair. Because if your mom and dad taught you Buddha your whole life, some white guy getting off a bus giving you a little square Bible, that ain't going to convince you to change over. I don't think that's fair to expect that little kid to dump what he's grown up from and what his mom and dad taught him to choose Jesus. Anyway, a little off topic, just kind of throwing out some of my beliefs. So I'd like to continue maybe having some conversations about some questions and maybe why do you believe? What has got it like anchored? Like what is it? It is in there. It is 1,000%. Or are you just kind of still floating, but it's enough? Or do you believe just out of fear? Or do you believe just out of public pressure? But you really don't. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have questions, and maybe it's helped me to believe more by the fact that I've resolved that I don't know that God is the same God that I learned in church, or that the people on the internet press with their whole, don't be gay, don't be this, and don't be that. And if you don't know Jesus, all you Jews are going to hell. I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Not if it's a fair and just God, because I don't think that's fair or just. So I would love to continue this conversation. If anyone's still listening, I would love to, if you have insight. One thing that does help me believe too, I love when I always was worried that religion was for the weak. That sounds horrible, but for people that they were down on their luck, or they were poor and they had to have something to believe in. And then now you just see some really, really highly educated people that believe in God. You see some top athletes that believe in God and profess it. And so I don't claim to be the smartest person at all. And by far. So I think that's why I continue my journey. That's why I'm pursuing it. And I'm actually loving it. I'm happier the closer I get and the better I feel about it. And just had a great weekend. I actually was asked to volunteer with kids for their middle school weekend. And I volunteered, and I was like, I don't know what to say. Do I be honest and tell them, I got some doubts, guys? But no, I wasn't like that. It was more just, I don't know, hard to explain. That's a whole nother topic. But I felt great about it. I felt, I don't know. I feel like I am getting closer, and it's the good kind of closer. And I think I'm getting way closer. But I'm really disappointed that there's a lot of people out there still throwing religion around when it's just a cover up for racism. And that's not what we're going to talk about today, because I think racism is different than what we grew up with as well. Like, racism when I was a kid was you thought you were better. It was like KKK. That meant you were racist. Well, I think that's evolved. And I think it's becoming more obvious that you can be a racist and still be a good person. You can still be a racist and have a lot of black or brown friends. You can be a racist and still, well, I don't know, whatever. I think it's the lack of empathy and the lack of understanding what somebody else might be going through. Anyway, we're talking about religion here. That's where I am today. And I'd like to get some people maybe from the church, but I want to get some other people that maybe are where I am, or maybe they're further away. I don't want to debate. It's not what I'm looking for. I want to more just have conversations about it. See who's maybe in the same place I am or was there and what you did to get over the hump. So that's it. I'm going to sign off now. Talk to you later. Bye.
Are you having a David day?